Speed Queen is a much easier, much forgiving machine. It's designed for a tech.
It's gonna be the best wash you've ever had.
I'm Andy Lubon. I'm the National Field Service Manager at Appliance Laundry Systems. We've got service leaders from around the country. We're gonna take a look at some of the Speed Queen product versus another competitor. All right, we can move from the drive. If I just take a step in this direction and take a look at the outer tub, I see a pretty substantial difference out of the gate. I think the phrase you hear overall in these type of comparative videos is, it says it all, right?
A construction worker, a metal worker, somebody that has stuff in their pockets, and I look and I go, well, if something's spinning around at a high velocity and it's sharp, what's the chances that I'm gonna have a hole in this tub as compared to I'm gonna have a hole in this tub?
That happens? We have something between the tubs that'll actually cut this tub?
It will punch holes. It don't happen that often, but the point is it does. It never happens with a Speed Queen.
Fair enough.
It doesn't, you don't throw screws or nails through the Speed Queen tub.
You guys build a machine that's gonna work properly, not almost properly, not kind of properly.
You getting this? That's probably the best statement of the day.
The transmission for the top loader here. So it was aluminum, now it is metal, and it lasts longer. So this one help us out.
I do remember Speed Queens has made an effort to move back to an improved product. They realized something didn't work and they went back to what worked. And with the metal gearing and all the changes, it definitely made a way better transmission now. And compared to all the competitors, a much more reliable product as far as the transmissions. If you come over to the Maytag, you can see the makeup of the gearing on the inside. It's obviously plastic. So on a Speed Queen, the motor rotates one way, it's in spin. It rotates the other way, it's in agitate. On the Maytag, the only thing that changes that is the actual motor. So the motor goes back and forth, but as you can see, they use all this plastic gearing.
Like he said, it's plastic. End of story, it's plastic.
Yeah.
You can try to do everything you want, it's just not a commercial product. End of story.
Can I guess this is a common call for you and your people with this setup?
Well, I guess if you wanted to compare it, if we had a plastic chain and a metal chain to pull a car out of a ditch, which one are you gonna want to try to use?
There you go, perfectly said.
Either better.
So this gearbox, is that what they call it?
Yes.
This is on the MAT commercial unit. Is this any different from what Maytag produces as far as a domestic unit goes?
Maybe the part number.
The part number might be different?
It's right here.
Again, I'm not versed in this. I've never really broken this apart before. Is this the actual belt and this is our setup?
Yes.
Correct.
Versus, hey, hold that for me.
Yes.
Versus, this is the drive on the Speed Queen.
Oh wow, it's metal.
Yeah.
Look at that.
We've determined there is not a difference.
There's no difference between the way
The commercial and the domestic.
the commercial and the residential. As you can see, the gear cases are pretty much exactly the same build. Just one's in the commercial setting, one's in the residential. One has different controls. That's the only difference in the
And
two.
it says commercial on the...
Correct.
What's the benefit to having the Speed Queen solid transmission like that?
A happy customer.
Happy customer. So their
Something
load's going to get
that
done.
gets what they expect.
Fair enough.
Less service call for my technician.
Should be less service calls, yeah.
For the bottom line of everybody, okay, let's talk about a commercial. For one, we know the customer, a lot of customers are gonna overload the machine because they wanna get the most out of their money. That's what they're gonna do. Speed Queen's designed to take that kind of beating, whereas on a Maytag, they put the sensors in place and stuff so that they don't have to take that kind of beating. But then the customer calls, more service calls, because the machine didn't finish their load. Unhappy customer, unhappy us, because we're going on several service calls to fix that.
Just the
Maytag.
mentality behind it.
Right.
They're
A
making,
philosophy.
Their philosophy is to make a machine that almost works up to standards. Their standards are minimal. You can see it in all of their product, and they want to make a very low-cost transmission. Anything you look at in the machine is under par to the Appliance machine.
We want longevity. We're looking for longevity with the Appliance product, with the Speed Queen product. Yeah, and it shows, especially in the drive stuff that we just broke down, looked at the weights, looked at the components. Let's talk about the motor and the electronics. Here we've got some of the components of the Maytag motor we've kind of taken apart.
So it's not that this plastic gearing strips. What they have to do then is they have to make the computers more sensitive. So there's a lot more unbalancing and a lot more shutdowns during the cycle so that it don't damage the plastic product that they're using on the inside. And so a lot of customers will call in and they'll say, well, the machine stopped mid-cycle, the machine stopped, the machine's throwing an unbalance. And that's usually what happens.
I mean, it seems to me like you have two directions with the motor on the Speed Queen. We're here, we basically
the motor's
using
doing all
each
kinds
time.
of different things, yes.
But let's compare that side by side with the Speed Queen unit. Obviously this one's apart, but when I look at the size of this rotor, is quite a bit of difference, like that fitting in here versus the actual size of the Speed Queen. So again, this motor has been used for how long? Like a long time, over 20 years, yeah. And we've never really gone down in the size of the motor, its components. Again, behind you, Jason, you can see the casing. Even though this is in pieces, look at this, the diameter versus the Speed Queen unit. And it's important to note, again, like Lazar and I were talking, we've used this configuration for well over 20 years, probably around 27 years to my math. So again, looking at the size, quite a bit of difference.
So what are you saying? If it's not broke, don't fix it?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? This is the Maytag, and this is the Speed Queen harness. Basically, we call it the main harness, right?
Correct.
We've talked earlier about the basket and the floating and how it moves around everywhere. Well, this harness has to be attached to that basket that's moving constantly all the time. And you look at these wires, and can you imagine?
We compare them to,
the
this is a
constant
motor
up and
harness,
down
right?
on that. Now let's look at the comparison. And it takes a lot less to break this one than that one as well.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
Lasts longer, I will say.
I'm Andy Lubon. I'm the National Field Service Manager at Appliance Laundry Systems. We've got service leaders from around the country. We're gonna take a look at some of the Speed Queen product versus another competitor. Let's take a look at getting water out of the machine. So this is the Maytag. This is an electric pump, if I'm not mistaken, versus when we come up here, and this is a good look at the Speed Queen pump. This is what we call a direct drive pump. There's no wires going to this, no terminals for wires in a top load application.
And these are emptying water at a very high rate, which means that you have less wait time as a customer. One of the most important things to a customer is their wait time. They don't want to wait forever for their laundry to be done. This is emptying the water quick and getting the cycle done quicker. And the benefit is the time.
And your biggest problem is, Andy, this goes directly to the tub. There
Interesting.
is no way when this pump fails for you to change it without dropping all that water or taking a vacuum or taking another pump to it.
I'm Andy Lubon. I'm the National Field Service Manager at Appliance Laundry Systems. We've got service leaders from around the country. We're gonna take a look at some of the Speed Queen product versus another competitor. So over here, looking at machines a little bit more complete.
So first, as you look, do you see any accessible parts from the front of the Maytag? I can't really see any there. But if you look at the Speed Queen, I've got all these accessible. You're all towards the front of the machine, and we don't have to worry about, everything's right here. Everything's right here for us to get to. On the Maytag, as we come over here and we look, number one, as you notice, I didn't have to tilt this machine. I didn't have to, it sits where it's at. Now, to get to that pump, I can't reach that pump and do anything from it from this way. So what do I have to do now? So now we have to tilt this machine back so that I can access the bottom, because I have screws that I have to remove that come off right here. And then if you look, there is no hose to clip off. Now you have the machine leaning back, right?
Now it's leaning back, so now you gotta try to pry that tub forward.
So you can get your tool in there.
And as you can see how it slips
Yes.
That's only one guy working on it.
What about all your plumbing and stuff in the back where and you gotta have Antonio hold the machine up for you? That's really expensive.
Right. And if he wasn't here, what would I be doing? I'd have to use a customer's wall.
Right, fair enough. So when you look at front serviceability, everything's right up front on the Speed Queen.
You can read everything even. You even know what motor you need on that.
And you can visually check it without getting under the machine, without worrying if maybe is there a leak back there. You'd have to get down on that floor, it'd be all full of water. Speed Queen is a much easier, much forgiving machine. It's designed for a tech to come out and service it.
Less truck rolls, but when you're there, you're not spending the whole day in the laundry room.
Trying to play around with the machine. When you put this one, you put the hose, you put the clamp, you know you have a solid connection. You know when it turns on, you're looking at the motor, at the pump, at the belt, at the clips, everything is in front of you. There's no guesswork. You're staring at it. Anything goes wrong, it's all in the front.
What do you feel the priority was for making the Maytag machine as far as engineering and production goes?
And I want to be like, probably priority was not a customer.
So for me, it's the service time for a service tech is important for many reasons. Number one, the faster the repair's done, the sooner the customer's using that equipment. Maytag built something that washes clothes, and it works. But did they go above and beyond, or did they just go with the bare minimums of what they needed to make a machine that washes clothes? You know, Speed Queen takes it to another level. They have their own level when it comes to that.
I think Maytag's focus is on cost.
The overall cost of the unit?
Overall cost. They are not very concerned as where the technician, where he can excel, where we can see it to make it a better mousetrap. They don't make it user-friendly for our company, unfortunately.